So we will now move to our next speaker, Professor Walther Sallaberger, who is from LMU in Munich. Thank you very much indeed for joining us today, and we'll be talking on the Fragmentary Ur-3 Ritual Tablet from Ur.
Okay. When I had received the invitation to present a paper concerning the Ur-3 period at this Ur centenary colloquium, I decided not to choose one of those glitter topics dealing with the king and royalty, but instead proposed to focus on the minor deities of Ur. In my research, I turned my attention to the Sumerian ritual tablets from Ur, which I know long and have often looked at, but never understood it properly. Now, a more careful investigation led to an interpretation of the ritual, which came to me as a complete surprise, and I am happy to share the results with you tonight or today, wherever you are. Although, as you will see, I have ended up with a glitter topic. The main tablet fragment was found in the 4th season in the Gipar complex on a floor level of Amasuena, and published already a decade later by Leon Legren in his monumental edition of Ur-3 text UET 3 as number 57. Woolley's file card notes the character of the text. Ritual of the king for the 3rd, 4th, 5th day, etc. of the month of in the temple of Nanna, the garden of the goddess we read now, Ninkununa. Legren offered a translation in his catalogue of 1947 and commented on the goddess Ninkununa. Jan van Dijk included a fragment in his seminal article on Sumerian ritual texts. He concluded that the text deals with a cultic celebration as known from the hymnic literature, including the bath of the king and the participation of a priestess. In the same spirit, also Sjöberg and Römer proposed that the bathing belonged to a hieros gamos, which the king consumed every year at New Year festival, an interpretation stemming from a period when scholars had hypothesized the existence of a sacred marriage rite at an overall New Year festival in Sumer, an opinion based on speculative imagination and disproved later by the evidence from documents relating to the Celtic calendar. Römer repeated Van Dijk's edition, which is still found in the CDLI collection, although already in 1979, Krecher had seen that a second fragment from Ur, published in hand copy by Darlene Loading in 1976, can be joined. As could have been expected, the join did not support Van Dijk's reconstructions. The first complete phrase of the text already comes as a surprise. After Nanna was mentioned, the king should enter the temple of Enlil, and since there was no temple of Enlil in Ur, this must have referred to Enlil's temple in Nippur. In the preceding line, the name of Nanna may indicate the time in an expression as after Nanna was seen, indicating the sighting of the crescent on the evening sky that marks the beginning of a month. In our ritual, the new moon festival on the 2nd day would accordingly have been celebrated at Nippur. Although the wording of the text is very simple, the facts continue to be exciting. Already on the next day, the king should go to Uruk. Is that possible? The distance about 100 kilometers as the crow flies, and the trip on the Euphrates not much longer. The stream velocity of the Euphrates seems to be much too low to do this in a day. But workers managed to do boat transports from sites near Nippur, from Tumal and Pusresh Dagan, to Uruk within 2 days. Therefore, a royal boat with a motivated punting team would have done it in a single day. The prescriptions continue to be demanding for the king, and they require another well-trained team of punters already on the next day, he should enter the temple of Nanna at Ur, not less than 60 kilometers away from Uruk. Everybody will see the king's bath in the garden of Ninkununa in a different light now after the strain from the preceding rites. Purity and the god Nanna on the next day may well go together in a ritual, but I'm not aware of data for a plausible restoration of the last lines. The ritual described in the fragment from Ur thus forces the king to show up in the main sanctuaries in the empire's three capitals. First, in the temple of divine king Enlil in Nippur, then in the second capital Uruk, a city of central importance in royal ideology, as the home of the primeval king Gilgamesh, seen as a brother of King Shulgi, and their mother Ninsumun Ninsun. Furthermore, the queen was always closely related to Inanna, Uruk's goddess of love and war. And the tour ended at Ur, the city mentioned as the king's seat in his royal titulary. The philological addition of the fragmentary tablet from Ur has led to a rudimentary reconstruction of a royal ritual, but substantial parts of it have been known since 70 years thanks to administrative documents that list the animals sacrificed at royal offerings at exactly the same locations and in the same sequence. The tablets, you see the text edition numbers to the very right, stem from ancient Pusresh Dagan, modern Drayam, where scribes kept track of the royal stock of animals, especially animals for slaughter. They noted carefully each single expenditure in the Ur3 kingdom. A series of 4 documents lists now exactly the same series of sanctuaries. The day of the month is a little bit earlier in the documents. So, for example, you see for the yellow day for the Uruk day, days 1 and 2. But this agrees well with the observation made for lunar festivals that expenditure documents were regularly dated 1 or 2 days before the particular event. The king arrived at his destinations at Uruk and at Ur in the evening, as the documents say, and he sacrificed there before dawn when he left. The phrase in the archival text that designates royal presence at the sacrifice uses the same verb to enter as does the ritual text. Beyond the concordance in the sequence of ceremonies, the special role of Ninkununa both in the ritual and in the administrative documents, and always 2 days after the king's presence before Enlil, proves without any doubt that they relate to the same event. The administrative texts deal exclusively with fattened oxen, and in total 38 of these animals were slaughtered in the course of royal ceremonies. Now, these 4 documents, and among all Pusresh Dagan documents, only these 4, note one and the same occasion for the sumptuous rites. It is in the subscript when Ibizin received the crown. King Ibizin was crowned in the first days of the 10th month of the 9th and last year, named after his predecessor Shusuan. The latter had died in the preceding month. He was buried in the 3rd royal mausoleum at Ur. Shusuan must have died shortly after day 5, his last personal presence in a ritual. The preparation of his grave pit started on day 15, the funeral took place on day 17, and a wailing period of 9 days lasted until the 25th day. Now, only another 5 or 7 days later, on the first days of the 10th month, the new king, Ibizuen, was ready for coronation. As the ritual texts and the documents attest to, he appeared at the 3 main sanctuaries, Nippur, Uruk, and Ur, within the shortest time possible. He was thus seen almost simultaneously as new king by the highest dignitaries in these centers. The special occasion and the absolutely exceptional rapid sequence of rituals must be seen together. Ibizin emerged, so to say, everywhere in his kingdom at the same time as the one in front of the gods. At Ibizin's coronation, the miracle of the royal presence at 3 distant sanctuaries within 3 days was made possible, thanks to the perfect organization in royal transport and in the procurement of sacrifices. The seemingly contemporaneous coronation ritual at different places can be understood as another element to underline the transcendent nature of the divine king, an outsider and a stranger in the human world of his subordinates, to borrow the term of the stranger king from Graeber and Salons. The act of ritual installment of a new king was named after the insignia relating to the divine bestowal of the royal office, namely that Ibisuan had received the crown, and neither the throne of his forefathers nor the scepter guiding the people have denominated these procedures. Well, our colleagues from Great Britain are well aware of that. As for the ancients, also for modern observers, the crown has become the typical feature to recognize the king of the Ur-3 dynasty in imagery. Seals, Onama steles, and reliefs, at least in the tradition of the Ur-3 dynasty, show the format of this most important royal insignia, which was introduced in this form by Onama, founder of the dynasty, as an unadorned semispherical headgear with a broad brim, characterized by its absolutely plain surface. The form clearly shows that it was definitely not made of cloth or leather. An Ur-3 document informs about the material characteristics of a crown, albeit that of an Ain priestess and not the king. A new photo, thanks to Klaus Wagensonner, helps solve the puzzle of the base material. It is made of wood, on which the gold, in the case of the crown for the Ain priestess, 300 grams were applied. A light helmet made of wood, completely covered by first-quality gold, guaranteed a brilliant shining appearance of the crown on the head of the Ur-3 king. And precisely this image is generated by the final lines of an old Babylonian incantation on the crown. And it's here called the red golden crown. It's using the same verb as the adjective as for the first quality gold. So when Utu, the sun god, comes out from his bedroom and gazes upon it favorably, so the rising sun, when in the morning the king appears with his crown on, the rising sun would shine on it and produce an effect of flashing, throwing lightning. This was the more spectacular as large shining surfaces were extremely rare in the material world of Sumer and mostly confined to metal vessels. The pictured by the incantation suffices to explain convincingly specific shape of the Ur-3 crown. Now, this for the excursion, because the text mentioned it was when Epicene has received the crown. So I return now in the final part of this presentation to the religious component of the coronation ceremony. The sacrifices at Nippur were presented to Enlil and Ninlil in the presence of the king, and then to the healing goddess Nintin-Uga at the bathing ceremony. The Ur-3 king often invoked the divine physician, and her prominent presence in all three sanctuaries in the coronation ceremonies underlines the high value attributed to the king's personal health in performing his office. At Uruk, the king approached not only the city god Inanna both in the evening and before dawn, but upon arrival also deities related to the royal family. Shulgi, a statue of the new king's great-grandfather, Inanna and An in the temple of Inanna, divine physician Gula, we talked about her already, the gate of the Ain priestess Gepa residence, Nanaya, companion of Inanna, and like her, especially venerated by the queen, and Ninsumun, aka Ninsun, the royal mother of Gilgamesh and the ruling king. Upon his arrival at Ur, the king first entered the temenos of the city god Nanna, shown both by the ritual text and confirmed by the administrative lists. The following group of deities now resembles the one venerated the day before at Uruk. There's again the divine mother Ninsumun. There's another royal statue, here one of Shusuan, and again the healing goddess Gula. No building inscription for Gula's sanctuary is known, but a limestone foundation tablet says that Urnama, king of Ur, built the temple for Ninsumun, his goddess. Hall had found the object east of the excavated parts of the Echorsang in walls of mud bricks. These must have belonged to the royal palace as well. This suggests that it was the royal palace Echorsang where Ibizin presented his welcome offerings and his coronation coming from Nippur and Uruk. The procession of the new king can perhaps be mapped as follows: arrival at the West Harbour, entering the monumental center near the temple of the gatekeeper Nimintaba, turning north to Inanna, and then back south to the Echorsang palace, then with sacrifices to the mother, to the healing goddess, and staying there overnight. The following day, Ibizin venerated a different group of deities in Ur related to the bathing in the garden of Ninkununa according to the ritual text. The administrative tablet lists Ninkununa first, but adds 6 other deities. Neither Nanna and his cycle nor Ningal appear, therefore these rites were neither performed in the Nanna temenos nor in Ningal's chapel in the Gepa. Ninkununa, Lady Silver of the Prince, is a byname of Inanna at Ur. At the coronation ceremony, 2 further Inanna or Ishtar figures were venerated together with her, namely Anunitum and Ulmashitum, both referring to Ishtar of Akkad and her temple Ulmash. They feature prominently with the netherworld deity Alatum and often other goddesses like Ishkhara or Belet Nagar in sacrifices commissioned by royal ladies. The veneration of the group of Inanna Ishtar deities at the coronation may thus have alluded to the relationship of the king to his queen, a crucial and central constellation in the leadership of the kingdom, and in fact an important aspect of the king's association with the goddess Inanna. The netherworld deity Meslamtaea, also known as Nergal, appears often side by side with Alatum in lists concerning offerings at Ur. The second god named after Ninkununa, but like her considered with 2 oxen instead of 1 as the other deities, is god Nanna from a place called Murianaba'a, meaning perhaps in his distant years it was made. And the sacrifices at the coronation end with the Dais of An, a cult place known well from several lists, where it, however, precedes the city god Nanna and his sacred places, the Du'ur, the Dublamach, at the southeastern entrance to Nanna's temenos. Now, building inscriptions relating to various of these deities are known and allow an approximate localization in Ur. Door sockets of Ninkununa and of Anonitum stem from the Gepar complex, and thus their sanctuaries were perhaps housed in this region, Anonitum in the south, Ninkununa in the north. A door socket of Nana Murianaba'a was discovered in the Ganonmach, the main storehouse for the temple and the palace, and there in a room south of the center. Nothing speaks against a sanctuary for Nana Murianaba'a in the Ganonmach building, in my view. The Dais of An must have been near the entrance to the Nanna temenos, because it preceded this complex in offering lists. A series of inscribed bricks was found in the northernmost room 3 of the Egipa of Nabonidus. So this is very close to the entrance to the Nanna temenos of the Ur3 period below. The inscription stems from Onama in his early years. He was still only king of Ur. For the god An, he set out a sublime garden, and he built him a dais on a pure place. Now, this dais mentioned in the building inscription is without any doubt the dais of An, known from the lists of offerings. And one may suggest that the garden planted by Onama for An is the same as the garden of Ninkununa, where Ibizin bathed during his coronation. Ninkununa is a byname of Inanna at Ur, as we have seen, and not only were An and Inanna always venerated together, but also their building inscriptions were found in adjacent rooms of the late Gipau. Moreover, this localization agrees with the topography of this day's ritual in the region between Gepa, eastern Temenos corner, and Ganumach, outside of the Nanna complex and outside of the palace. One may thus ask whether the area termed denuded by Woolley for the Ur-3 period was perhaps the place of a garden between Ziggurat and royal palace, surrounded by the sanctuaries for the gods of our list. When the new king, after his arrival in Ur, bathed in the garden of Inanna, this can most plausibly be seen as preparation for a meeting with his wife, Geme-Inlila, who would become queen. The royal women performing cultic duties changed with the coronation of Ibizin, and both the wife and the queen mother of his predecessor Shu-Suen disappeared suddenly in their roles from now on. The end of the coronation ceremonies cannot fully be reconstructed. According to the ritual text, the king would have never narrated Nanna again. The last administrative text dates to the 6th day, which points to a sacrifice on the 7th or 8th, and it is a dedication to the mother goddess Ninhur Sangha in her sanctuary Nutur, that is the ancient name of modern Tel al-Obeid. A comparable series of sacrifices suggests that in between Enki of nearby Eridu could have been included. To summarize, during the coronation, the king had been present at the capitals and major shrines of Sumer, Nippur, Uruk, and Ur, almost at the same time, where he entered the temple of the main gods Enlil and Ninlil, Inanna, and Nanna. Also, the healing goddess, named Nintenuga or Gula, received a special tribute, certainly to ensure the king's health. In the palaces of Uruk and Ur, he venerated most prominently the divine mother of the king, Ninsumun, and statues of royal predecessors. The ceremonies then opened a new perspective with the bathing in Inanna's garden in Ur, which indicates a focus on a new queen and her change of status. The coronation festivities of Ibizin were concluded in Ur and in its environment. After the coronation in the sanctuaries, the new king met representatives of the land. Already on the first day in Nippur, a large number of animals was put on boats for the kitchen. And on day 11, again a large amount was provided for a banquet in Ur for the overseers and captains of the assembly at service. Directly after the coronation, one of the largest festivals of the kingdom, the Sublime Festival around full moon, was celebrated in and around Ur, and there one could expect large delegations from all over the kingdom and from abroad, and the new king could then introduce himself to his subjects and the foreign emissaries. Thank you for your attention.